At 3:42 a.m. on an ordinary Tuesday in Ohio, a traffic camera recorded something that should not have been possible. A man stepping into a crosswalk, vanishing mid-stride, and reappearing 3 seconds later on the opposite side of the intersection without any sign of motion between. And at first the footage was dismissed as a glitch until similar reports began appearing across the country. Gas station cameras in Nevada, doorbells in Florida, subway platforms in New York, each showing ordinary Americans briefly disappearing and reappearing a few feet away, always unharmed, always confused, and always unaware that anything unusual had occurred. And when federal analysts overlaid the incidents on a national map, a disturbing pattern emerged. Every disappearance occurred within 48 hours of a medical visit involving genetic testing, routine blood work, or ancestry analysis, procedures millions of Americans undergo each year without concern. The story truly began decades earlier, when the Human Genome Project mapped human DNA and concluded that racial differences were superficial cultural labels painted onto a species that was genetically nearly identical. But what that conclusion failed to explore was not difference but instability. The fact that the human genome, under modern pressure, had become more flexible than ever before, capable of expressing dormant variations once thought irrelevant, and in the early 2000s, as commercial DNA testing exploded in the U.S., Americans unknowingly became the most genetically documented population in history, their biological data stored, cross-referenced, and fed into machine learning systems designed not to change humans, but to predict them. Buried within this ocean of data, a small group of bioinformaticians noticed something unsettling. A recurring anomaly in regulatory DNA, a sequence present across races, ages, and ethnic backgrounds that activated only when human cells were exposed to a specific combination of electromagnetic frequencies, stress hormones, and circadian disruption, conditions increasingly common in modern American life. And while the sequence did not alter physical appearance or intelligence, it affected spatial perception at the neurological level, subtly changing how the brain mapped the body's position in space. At first, the effect was negligible, manifesting as improved reaction times in athletes, faster reflexes in gamers, and heightened situational awareness in first responders, traits celebrated in American culture without suspicion. But as environmental pressures intensified, 5G saturation, chronic sleep deprivation, rising anxiety, artificial lighting, and non-stop digital stimulation, the mutation crossed a threshold, and the brain began doing something extraordinary, correcting spatial errors faster than consciousness could register, occasionally overshooting reality itself. The first confirmed case involved a delivery driver in Texas who avoided a fatal collision by instinctively stepping sideways, later insisting he had moved normally. Unaware that his body had briefly bypassed the physical space between positions, and when neurologists examined him, they found no damage, no abnormalities, only heightened neural efficiency in the parietal cortex, the region responsible for spatial orientation. As similar cases mounted, the U.S. government quietly classified the phenomenon under a joint NIH-DARPA program, labeling affected individuals as phase shift variants, though no actual phase shifting was occurring. Rather, the human brain was predicting reality so accurately that it initiated movement before the world could catch up, creating the illusion of teleportation. The ethical crisis erupted when it became clear that the mutation was not evenly distributed by race or class but by lifestyle, appearing most frequently among populations exposed to high stress, fragmented sleep, and constant digital interaction, conditions disproportionately common in urban America. And critics warned that society was witnessing the birth of a biological divide shaped not by ancestry but by environment, a new kind of human variation molded by modern survival pressures. Social media, as always, misunderstood first, branding affected individuals as blinkers, glorifying their clips, remixing their moments, and turning a neurological adaptation into entertainment, while scientists raced to explain that this was not evolution toward superiority but adaptation toward efficiency. A survival response to a world moving faster than human perception was originally designed to handle. The turning point came when a mass incident occurred during a blackout in Chicago, where dozens of individuals instinctively blinked out of collapsing structures, surviving events that killed others standing inches away, and as emergency footage surfaced, public opinion fractured. Some demanded genetic screening to identify blinkers, others called for suppression, fearing discrimination, exploitation, or worse, militarization. History repeated itself quietly, as it always does, echoing earlier moments when differences in human biology, real or exaggerated, were used to justify fear, hierarchy, and control, and civil rights leaders reminded the nation that race itself had once been falsely framed as biological destiny, a mistake science had already corrected, and now another variation risked being weaponized by misunderstanding. Researchers soon discovered the most unsettling truth of all. The mutation was not new, not engineered, and not American, but ancient, a dormant capability present in all humans, activated sporadically throughout history during periods of extreme stress, famine, or migration, but never sustained long enough to spread, until now, when modern conditions kept the trigger permanently engaged, effectively training the human brain to outrun reality itself. The final chapter unfolded when a retired schoolteacher from Missouri, one of the earliest documented blinkers, voluntarily entered a public study and demonstrated that the ability could be suppressed through lifestyle changes, sleep restoration, reduced digital exposure, and stress regulation, proving that this was not destiny but responsiveness, not the next step of humanity but a mirror reflecting how far society had pushed the human nervous system beyond its original limits. As the study concluded, the disappearances slowed, then stopped, not because the mutation vanished, but because awareness changed behavior, and in a quiet address to Congress, a geneticist summarized what the phenomenon truly meant. That human variation is not a ladder toward something better, not a division between races or classes, but a living feedback system responding to how we choose to live. And today, though the cameras no longer capture people vanishing mid-step, Americans still slow down at crosswalks, glance twice at surveillance footage, and wonder not whether humans are evolving into something new, but whether the future is shaping us faster than we realize, and whether the next adaptation will save us, or simply reveal how close we've come to outrunning ourselves.